All right, it's great to be here with everybody, and I'm excited about sharing what I've learned from years and years of experience, and also from working with personal financial skills and training people for the last 25 years. I am not a financial advisor. I don't have any formal finance background. I was married to a chartered accountant, and early on in our marriage, we just made some wise choices, read some books, realized we wanted more from life than just the 9-to-5 job and stressing month to month to put petrol in the car and to buy something new instead of secondhand. So we started early on just putting a little bit of money aside, read a few books, did a few courses, and years down the line, when I lost my husband tragically and sadly, I realized that I'm on my own. I now have to keep control of my personal finances. And I was very grateful that I didn't have to stress about money, because we had just put some principles in place and formed some habits. One of the things I didn't have to worry about was finances. And so what I did a few years ago was sell my business. It was in the wedding industry, to start training personal financial skills on a more full-time basis. I was involved with working with churches and under Crown Financial Ministries, did a lot of training through the churches. And one of the most impactful things that we ever did was teach people how to manage their basic finances. So I'm excited just to share a few things with you tonight. It's not going to be mind-blowing. A lot of it is just common sense, but hopefully give you steps so that you can figure out how to start making a difference. And it's really important now, I think more than ever, to take control of your finances and do something practical if you want a better financial future. All right, just got some notes here, so I'm going to stick to them. So basically, there are a few keys. Some people call them secrets, but I think they're not so secret because we all know about them. But there are a few keys of managing your finances. And unfortunately, we are not taught these at school. Sorry, I'm just going to. That little clip there says, my mom said I have to go to school if I want a house and a car, but quite frankly, I don't think I'm ready for that much financial responsibility. But if we did learn these things at school, I think we would be much more financially responsible. And unfortunately, we stuck on earning an income and having a whole lot of expenses. I've got 3 young adult children, a couple of them working, and I've just seen how hard it is for them to adapt and start working and allocate their finances and work on a budget and actually make ends meet so that they've got money at the end of the month. So basically, you need to know, and the first key is to know if you are spending less than you're earning. And a lot of people are not even aware of that. They don't know what the income is, what the expenses are. And basically, if there's money in the bank, they will use it and spend it. If there's not, then they start stressing. And most of the time, there's more month than at the end of the money. So that is the first thing to do, is figure out what your income is, what your expenses are. And I've shared a spreadsheet in with you. If you haven't got it, I'll make sure you get it. And we're going to have a look at that just to help you with starting to manage your money. You need to know where your money is going. And if you don't, then that's what happens. At the end of the month, you say, gee, there's nothing left and I don't know where my money's gone. And it's a very common thing. So until we start having a more of a control of our finances, our money is going to be controlling us. So the second thing we need to do really is just to find out how to manage that money, find out where it's going to, and have a spending plan. I don't like calling it a budget. I must admit, when I realized decades ago that we needed to start budgeting, I was very resistant because I saw a budget as restricting what I could do with my money. I didn't want to not be able to buy that pair of shoes or have that cup of coffee or do those things that I wanted to do. So a budget for me was very restrictive and I resented it. I worked against trying to have some sort of a budget. So I prefer to call it a spending plan. And there are ways of actually figuring out how much you're spending. So the starting point really is figuring out where your money is going is finding out how much you are spending and whether your income is more than your expenses. So if you don't know where to start with that, a good point is to have a look at your bank statements. That'll give you a good idea of where a lot of your finances are going. But then there's always that bit of cash that goes here, and that store that has a name on your bank statement, and you have no idea what it was or what it was for. So it's a good idea for about 30 days. What I suggest is that you just keep record of all of your spending. Don't do it for the whole year to start with. Just start off by doing it for 1 month. So we sort of gearing towards the beginning of next month. You can start tomorrow or start the month, and just every time you spend money, whether it's your credit card or cash, then there are a number of different ways of recording that. Old days, we used to have a little notebook and write it down. 30 years ago, when I started doing this, I would keep all my slips in my wallet, and then at the end of the month, very reluctantly sit down with a spreadsheet and put everything in. So what would happen is my wallet would get fatter and fatter with all the slips, and then month would go into 3 months or 6 months when I'd have to sit down and actually tackle this mountain of keeping track of it. But it's much easier now. There are some apps that you can use to record your spending. One in South Africa that's very good is called 227. I'll type it in here, 227. It's a free app. A lot of these are free. If you're wanting to upgrade, it'll link to your bank accounts. But that's easy, and they're a very good organization. They'll send you emails and keep you on track with some good tips and things with finances. There's another one that's called Every Dollar. It's an American app, but you can use it for South Africa, and also has a free version, and just a good starting point for how you can track all of your expenses and your income and keep a record of where you are in the month. So if you like apps, that's probably the best and the easiest way to do it. Another way is just by having a spreadsheet or a notebook in your car and keeping track of that. But just try it for a month. Need to find something that's going to work for you, because otherwise it just becomes daunting and you don't know where to start. So what I've done is also given you a spreadsheet that you can start with your budgeting. Let me just share the screen here so you can have a look at it. So the first thing you need to do is figure out, okay, we call it an income statement, but basically it's just your money coming in and your money going out. And you have a copy of the spreadsheet, or you can use one. There's a lot. You can just go and Google it and find something. But just basically the starting point is knowing how much you're spending, and we've broken it into different categories. So for example, all of this is your gross monthly income. So the first thing you do is work out how much your income is. If you have a standard salary and you might have a second income in the household, or if you have a variable income, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a consultant and you don't have a standard, a regular income, the best way is to take your average, your annual income and divide it by 12 months to work out your monthly income. And I know with some people, with entrepreneurs and people that don't have a regular income, it's very difficult to do that. But maybe look at your last years of earnings, kind of anticipate what you're going to have. And I would rather underestimate your income than overestimate your income if it's not regular. And then any other income that you might have investment properties or dividends from shares, or royalty from a book or something that you've done. Any other income, if you've got bonuses or a living annuity or gifts or whatever, and put all of that in there. And then put your living expenses in, and you can work out what categories work for you. So this is a general one that covers most people, a general expense category called housing, one for food, one for transport, insurance, if you've got debt, one for entertainment, clothing, savings, miscellaneous, etc. All right, and then depending on where you're at with your family and your state of life, you might have one for entertainment if you do a lot of entertaining or you like traveling a lot or whatever. Otherwise, if you've got children, you'll need to have a category to cover all of the children's expenses. All right, and then basically just go through this and put in what your expenses are. I'm looking at student prices here, or costs and things. So whatever it might be, go and input all of your information, and the spreadsheet will work out everything for you. Your food category is just a general food category. If you have eating out, entertainment, you might want that as a separate category or put it in your same category. So whatever that might be. All right, and so you can work through here and see. Some of you might have no idea about how much you're spending. Just try and ask a few people, or ask yourself, how much are you spending on food a month? Do you have any idea? You know, a few years ago, I asked myself that, and I thought I had an idea until I started keeping my track of my spending again. So it's quite interesting to see how much you think you might be spending and then work it out. So for the next 30 days, just keep track of these, put your finances into different categories. If you are very mathematical or A-type and very particular, you might want to break down things a little bit more, but make it doable. Don't make it too intense that it's going to stop you from actually doing it. All right, and then it'll show you at the end of that spreadsheet I've sent you that either you've got your income less your expenses, and then you'll see if you've got a surplus or a deficit. And unfortunately, most of us find out at the end of the day we've got a deficit. So what do we do about that deficit? And we can sit back and just moan about it every month, or we can actually stick it out and get down to the grindstone, figure out how we're going to do something about it. And if you see your budget as giving you freedom rather than restricting you, it just helps you with your mindset to get on top of it and not to put it off anymore. So once you've done that, it'll give you an overview. I've also get a lot of questions from people saying, how much should we be spending on each of these categories? One of the typical errors people make is when they start earning young professionals, my son being one of them, or some people I know will go out and buy a new car with the, as soon as they start earning an income, and that might be 45% of the income. So it's difficult to then allocate your funds equally or realistically for the rest of what you're needing to spend. So just as a guideline, I think it's also helpful to know how much you should be allocating to each category. And this is very much a guideline. I think I haven't shared my screen with you. Sorry. Did I share my screen? Sorry, let's just do that. Can you share? Just give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen. There's a spending plan. Okay, great. All right, so something that you can work towards is allocating your finances in a decent way. And this is a guideline for where you should be going. And I've put the first category of spending as giving. If you believe in giving 10% of your income, it's something that's a good habit to form. But what happens when you start giving is that it changes your mindset. And if you give the first 10%, it's easier than waiting until all your expenses are done and then you end up giving from what's left over and there's nothing left over. But by giving away money, it tells you that you have enough. There are always people in the world that have less than us. And by having that mindset, yes, I do earn enough, or do have enough that I can afford to give, it just changes your whole perspective on your finances. We can go into that in a lot more detail, but I just firmly believe that by giving, it's where you really get your joy, and we can make a difference in the world by giving. And if you can't start off by giving 10%, then start by allocating 1% of your income and start increasing it slowly as you can. The second 10% of your income should go to savings. And now again, it's something that people wait until the end of the expenses, will pay all their bills and expenses, and then if there's anything left over at the end of the day, they start saving. But if you save 10% before you do anything else, what happens is that you are paying yourself first. And that 10% is going into your future or your financial security. So rather than wait until you've got money at the end of the month to save, put it onto an auto you get your come in, have it automatically going off to a savings account. So you don't even think about it. And the first month or two, you might realize, oh, you might feel it. But after a while, you're not even going to notice that saving. And slowly that money is going to be building up for you to actually use to your benefit. And we're going to have a look at what we can do with that saving. So I know for now, it's impossible for a lot of you to be saving 10%. I'm going to show you ways that you can save a lot more than you are now. I believe it's possible for everybody. But if you can't save 10% of your income now, then again, start with a small amount. Save 100 Rand or save 1% of your income. And then the next month, save 2%. And then the next month, save 3%. And build it up gradually. And you'll find eventually that you don't really notice and you don't lose out by any of that savings money. It just becomes on autopilot. And it makes it much easier to secure your financial future that way. All right, this next category for your spending should go to investing. Once you've got your savings sorted out, then you need to be investing, and I'll show you where and how. We just look at a few things, the benefits of investing. Aim to invest about 10% of your income. If you have a regular job and they contribute towards your retirement annuity, it's taken off automatically often. But if it's up to you to put into your retirement annuity, don't ignore that category. I've worked for about 12 years with a lot of small businesses, and I'm astounded how many people don't have any investments, no retirement annuity, nothing put aside for their future. And if you're sitting there knowing that you're going to have to work for the rest of your life because you haven't put aside any investment, then I'm just going to encourage you now that you can start doing that. It's never too late. My mom, who's 87, I shouldn't tell you that. She didn't like me people knowing her age, but my mom in her 80s said she'd love to join us, but it's too late for her now. And I really think it's not too late for most people to start just putting aside and securing your future. So investing is the next category. All right, so a very important category that some people don't put aside for when they're trying to save and get their finances in order is fun. And I think it's important that we allocate some entertainment and fun every month that you need to use, because it also tells your psyche and your mindset that you've got enough. I have enough to have fun. And life is too short not to enjoy. There's too many things that are stressing us out and that we have to take seriously. So if you allocate 5%, again, if you can't squeeze it in, then just a little bit of money every month, and you decide how much you're going to allocate, but build up to at least 5% of your income, where you can do whatever you like doing, whether you want to go on a painting course, or you want to go on a birding outing, or you want to take a weekend away, or have a meal out with your friends, whatever it is that lights your fire, that builds you up and excites you. If we have something in every month that we can look forward to, it just makes life a little less tedious and gives us something to look forward to. So make sure that you work towards allocating some of your income to that. I also like to allocate some to personal growth. One of your biggest assets is yourself. And if you're not growing yourself, then it's difficult to actually keep on top of things. So personal growth would be courses or workshops or books or seminars or anything where you can grow yourself, which leaves us with 55% of your income to your essentials. And if you do that spreadsheet that I showed, you'll probably find that 80% of your income is going to your essentials. And there's not much giving, saving, investing, fun, or personal growth. So this is really, if you're not here now, don't stress. It's just a goal to get to where you have a more balanced lifestyle. And then what goes into this whole essentials category? How much should you be spending on each of these different things? So it also helps just to have a guideline on where your spending goes. And please, it really is a guideline. Everybody's at different stages, different ages, different income levels, different priorities. But just to give you some idea so that it's a little bit more balanced and you're not paying 50% of your income on your transport or your new car, there is just a guideline. So rent and utilities, or your housing and utilities bond if you're paying off about 30 to 40%. So that's your biggest slice, is where you're living, how much you're paying for that. Which is also why we try to, if you own a home, to start paying off your bond sooner so that you can have more money that you can allocate to saving and investing. Food, 5 to 15%. I know some people won't like that. And also if you're obviously feeding a family of 4 or 5, it's going to be a lot more than that. Then transport and your car, 10 to 15, clothing, 2 to 7%, insurance, about 5 to 15. A lot of people are spending way too much on insurance as well, so you can have a look at that. Health and fitness, if you belong to a gym or you buying new shoes or whatever it is, childcare, personal care, and miscellaneous. And there's no entertainment in that guideline there. So that would probably fit into your miscellaneous category. All right, so that just gives you an idea, a guideline. It's very rough suggestions of where to start spending your money so that you can get an idea of or be on top of what you're needing to. And then what we need to just have a look at, once you've got an idea of where your money is and where you are allocating your funds, you'll find, or if you do find, that there's very little padding at the end of it. So I'm going to have a look and just spend a few minutes on some ideas, really brainstorming how we can save some more money, because I love teaching about investing, and often people will say, I can't invest because I don't have any money. There's nothing at the end of the month to put in towards investing. So let's just have a look at some ways that we can save. And this just comes from brainstorming and some from different ideas. And as I mentioned before, if you put saving on autosave and it gets taken off into an account before you even see that money, it's like part of your tax. But it's going to yourself. You're paying yourself, and it's going to be used for whatever. You can either use that savings to put into your debt, pay off your debt sooner, or to start an emergency fund. And I would recommend that if you don't have any savings at all, your first point of call for savings is to have an emergency fund. So build up an account of 10 to 15,000 Rand where it's put aside, where you have easy access to it. Because how often do we have an emergency? And then we start taking out on our home loan, or we start going into debt or use our credit card and to get us out of the emergency. I've had a lot of emergencies in the last 3 months, and my little emergency fund of 15,000 didn't touch sides for a leaking roof, a broken shoulder, an overseas trip, and all sorts of other things that just came flying our way. So life happens sometimes. And if we don't have any savings, it just puts us backwards and causes more stress. Just a side note on that is where to put your savings. I suggest that if you don't have a bank where you can allocate a different amount to a savings account, then TymeBank, T-Y-M-E Bank, is a low-cost banking option for that. There's no bank fees, and it's easy to allocate some money where you can save it and it's separate to your own account. The problem with having all your savings in with your current account or your other accounts is that you don't know how much you're saving. So it's important to have a separate account or somewhere where you can put your savings every month and start building up that little firstly emergency, and then saving for other things. If you want to, there's short-term savings and long-term savings. So if you want to save for a holiday, it's not just going to happen. If you plan it and put a bit aside every month, then you can save for your holiday. That's a shortish term saving, depending on where you're going. If you're wanting to save for a vehicle, it's maybe, or a car or a home, it's a longer term saving that you're going to have to look at. But whatever it is, you need to be putting aside money. Okay, so if you're saying, all right, well, we don't have any buffer at the end of the month, we can't save anything, let's just have a look at a few options where we can, sorry, I keep forgetting to save my screen here. Sorry. All right, so there are a number of ways where we can save. And if you just look at a whole lot of different categories and get serious about putting aside a little bit, there are lots of ways that you can do it. So let's see how you can save at least 200 Rand a month. Some of you will be able to save a lot more. And the first way you can save is just by looking at your utilities. Have a look at your electricity and water account. I grew up in a household where we were told all the time to turn off lights and not to waste water. And it's amazing that it does make a difference. And just if it's 100 Rand a month or 50 Rand a month, it starts to add up. I learned to save water a lot when my son came back from Cape Town and they'd had the water restrictions. And they were catching water from the shower and not letting taps run. And it's good habits to get into because it all adds up. So just have a look at that, see if you're overspending, and try and cut back and just be a bit, and that's an easy way of saving. Something like putting your geyser on a timer switch will save a lot as well. All right, the second biggest category, I think, is your food. A lot of people spend way too much on their food. So if you don't want to hear this part, then it's fine, but there are lots of ways of reducing. So first, you can start planning. If you have some meal plans, it helps to not buy things that you don't need. Reduce your eating out. It helps a lot. If you are restaurant eaters, I'm not saying don't go out for eat in restaurants, but work on how much you're spending on those restaurants. Sorry, I've just seen Fern's raised her hand here. Is there a problem there? Can everyone see and hear?
Yeah, I'm not seeing your screen, Nikki. The screen that you're on is kind of stuck on the essentials, the last slide. I don't know if anyone else.
Is anybody else? Can you
that?
see 10 ways to start saving?
No.
No. Okay, let's get out of here. Thanks, Fern.
Okay.
Sorry. Before we go through the rest of these, let's just have a look here. And now, can you see 10 ways to start saving?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure what's happened here. Hang on a sec, sorry. Can you still see the old one? You can't see 10 ways to start saving.
That's it. We've got it now. That's good.
Okay, okay. All right, so let's, so 10 ways to start saving. Utilities, you can save on electricity and water. Food, you can plan your meal plans. Reduce eating out. If you are foodies and you love eating out, just work out how much you're spending a month on those eating outs. And I'm not saying don't eat out, but maybe just reduce it. Maybe eat out once a month or instead of 4 times a month. Shopping and cooking in bulk helps. And if you skip a meal, it's going to save you 100 Rand a week. And that's 400 Rand a month. So straight away there, if you're feeding 2 or 3 people, it's a quick way. And let's face it, we can all afford to skip a meal now and again. But those are just some ways that you could very quickly and easily save a couple hundred Rand on your food bills. Shopping, generally avoid online shopping. If you get stuck on that, or if you're an online shopper, often we do it late at night and we go onto our favorite online shopping store. And like my daughter bought a bikini and it was then 2 for the price of 1. And then if you bought another one, you didn't have to pay for the shipping, and they are masters at marketing. So at the end of the day, 8 swimming costumes arrived and I said, this is crazy. And I think there are a lot of us who are guilty of that. So if you're not disciplined, then don't even go online shopping. And I know I did the same thing. I went on, I actually got a voucher because I bought some stuff. I sent some flowers to somebody. And then I got a voucher for the store that I bought the flowers through. And so I went to go and use that voucher. And it was the same thing. then you could just upgrade it and get another thing, and this was on sale, and then you can stop your delivery bill if you buy this, etc. So you end up buying a lot of things that you don't really need if you're not disciplined. All right, so if you're really wanting to cut back, what I suggest, try for a month, instead of using your credit card, just to use cash. Draw cash and then use your cash instead of your credit card. And you generally spend 20% less if you are using cash. Shopping with a list, if you're going to the store, also helps a lot. All right, next category is insurance. Check your insurance premiums. They don't always update them, especially your car insurance. If you haven't reassessed your car insurance in the last year, phone them, because your car loses value, but they don't reduce your insurance policy. And then compare premiums. Have a look at another company and then go back to your insurance company and tell them that you can get a better price somewhere else. So don't be scared to negotiate. You can save a good few $100. A lot of people are spending way too much on insurance. Sorry, I've got my toddler here as well coming to. Luna, down. Sit. Come sit here. Sorry.
So he wants to learn how to budget. So
she's chewing me up here. Yeah. Luna, down. Sorry. All right. Then if you're really getting serious, you need to get serious about your spending. Have a look at your car spending. Are you a 2-car family? Can you sell or downsize it? I was speaking to someone in our finance mastermind group recently, and she's actually bought a small little car that she can zoot around town with, and she's saving 1,000 Rand on petrol a month. So have a look at that, especially with the price of petrol now. You can do things like carpool, share lifts, plan trips for efficiency. So you're not going to the shops and then going to fetch the kids and then carrying on like that. All right, so next area you can consider is your home or your rent. And this is if you really are not making ends meet. I know a lot of people lost work and income drastically during the pandemic. And if you need to, even consider looking at downsizing. And it's going to not only save a couple of hundred, but that's where you're going to save thousands. If you have a spare room, you can look at perhaps renting out the room, subletting. And then also if you're buying furniture or anything for your home, then you can also always buy used rather than go out buying new. And during this time, while you're trying to save money, then avoid buying anything that you don't need. Just put on hold things like your clothing, and if you're wanting to get more furniture or upgrade your curtains or anything, all of that can wait if you're serious about starting to save and just getting your finance in order at this stage. Another big area where you can save a lot is your TV and cell phone. It just comes as a known or given that your upgrade is due, and so you go and buy a new phone and you upgrade. And I don't know if you realize, but now that's not only a 24-month contract, they're now doing 36-month contracts. So it looks like it's cheaper, but you're actually tied in for 36 months. So have a look at those cell phones. Do you really need a new phone? Would it be better to use your phone and just get a contract month to month, pay as you go? And these are things that you can look at and save literally hundreds a month. Another one in South Africa, overseas, I know cable TV, but have a look at if you've got a DSTV contract versus Netflix or Disney or something else. You can save 800 Rand a month just by cancelling your DSTV contract and using Netflix. So I'm not saying don't watch TV at all. I'm just saying that be wise with what you do and how you spend your money with your entertainment. And that's an area that you can save a lot of money on. And it's not forever. You don't, if you really, if that's your way of chilling out at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you don't have to have it forever, but for a while, at least while you're trying to save and get on top of your finances, that's a big category you can cut back on hundreds. Memberships and subscriptions is another area. If you like a lot of people, you go gym membership, but you go once a year. So for a while, maybe it's worthwhile canceling. You can start walking and running and doing things that on a short-term basis, instead of having those expensive memberships. Subscriptions also, if you've subscribed to something, a magazine or a software or something online, just make sure that that subscription is not being charged for. You can go onto your Apple Store and check what subscriptions you've got. And often they will just continue with your subscription without you even knowing. So make sure you know where your money is going in terms of that, and assess whether you really need that at this stage. Gift giving as well. Some people are givers and love to give, but at this stage, if you are really trying to cut back on your costs, it's an area where you can really get creative. Use your heart, give something that you've made, or something that's meaningful rather than spending a lot on gifts. Anticipate things like Christmas coming up, and if you are a big family of big giving, either be straight out forward with your family and tell them, listen, let's kind of cut out and do something. Lots of ways of saving money at Christmas in terms of gift giving. Have a secret Santa where everybody buys one gift instead of you buying 10 gifts for 10 people. So you can still enjoy giving, but not spend a fortune unnecessarily. All right, and then the last category, just suggestion here, is check out charity shops and auctions for stuff that you need. Okay, if you're like me, it's not a good idea to go to an auction when you don't need anything, because you'll get tempted to buy things just because they're cheap. Like a magnum of wine that I bought once when I was looking for some furniture for my son's university room. Okay, so if you do need something, go and have a look at places where you can buy secondhand instead of new. Right, and then, so there's a lot of different ways, and that's just brainstorming a few ideas. If anybody has any other ideas and things, then just maybe put it in the chat, and you can always Google creative ideas to save money. But I think it's obvious that there are definitely ways that we can cut back and save money on a month-to-month basis. I mentioned earlier as well that we're wanting to try and build up an emergency fund of 10,000 Rand. And if you say to a lot of people, we'll just save 10,000 Rand, it's a little bit daunting. How am I going to do that? So I think just to give ideas of how you can, how you can save quickly, how you can, I'll show you this video in a second, sorry. Okay, we'll watch it now quickly. Sorry, just as a little light-hearted.
Just the 5p ones, please.
These ones are 15p.
15p? No, I can carry all this. Okay, I've got the pockets.
And so he goes on.
Yeah, he's gone. Yep. One on those. Look.
Or card.
Card, please.
Like receipt.
Oh, no, thank you. See you later.
Right, could you hear the video? I hope you could hear that. Just a little sideline to say, okay, you can save, but there are ways of actually saving, and we don't really need to cut back and be that pedantic and that particular about saving 15p. But there are certainly lots of ways where you can save and start putting money aside. All right, so sorry, I just skipped forward to there. But if you're wanting to save a lot of money quickly, then there are ways. And if you can just get focused, it definitely is possible to save about 10,000 Rand very quickly for your emergency fund. You don't want your emergency fund to take you 5 years to gather. So here are just some suggestions of trying to put aside that 10,000 Rand so you've got a little bit of a buffer, and it's just a little bit of a comfort zone as well. So cut back on your spending in some of the ways that we've suggested, eating out, cut the manicure, DSTV, etc. We've talked about that. Sell any unwanted stuff. Just look around your house or your apartment and see that you don't want what you don't want and get rid of it. You can increase your income for a short-term period, especially. There's lots of sideline gigs or things that you can do. Also, lots of information you can Google to find side hustles. And it's also not long-term, just so that you can build up that emergency fund quickly. All right, gather your loose change and cash. It just helps you value a Rand, put more value on your money. And it's amazing when you do that, how much you can put aside just from looking at your loose cash. Right, and we mentioned check your insurance policies. That's an area where you can cut very quickly and save a few thousand Rand. So your first savings, the first goal that you need to set is to save 10,000 or 50, I prefer to say 15,000 quickly for your emergency fund. And you should be able to do it within 2 months, just by getting laser focused and just making sure that you do whatever you need to do to have that buffer, so that in the emergency, you don't have to go into further debt or stress more about that. The second stage for your savings really should be to work towards having 3 to 6 months of your living expenses in a savings account. And we used to say have 3 to 6 months, but I think it's probably safer to build up 6 to 12 months in the event of losing your work. It's just a nice buffer to have, and it will take you a while to build that up. But that's your next savings goal, to once you've got your emergency fund, to have your savings 6 to 12 months of living expenses saved, so that you can start feeling a little bit more comfortable about your finances. All right, so just checking out if I left anything out here quickly. All right, and just understanding the difference between saving and investing. So we've been talking about saving, and the whole aim is to show you that you can save a little bit more. But if we're wanting to get much further in life, saving is not going to create financial wealth, and it's not going to get us financial freedom. Because what happens when you save, your money is going into a bank account where you're probably getting a fraction of a percentage, if anything, in terms of interest. And just this little example here, if you save, for example, 1,400 Rand a month for 26 years in the bank, you end up with 436,000 Rand. And if you take 60,000 Rand of that a year, you're going to live for just over 7 years before you have no more money left. But if you take that same amount and invest it, so we're saving, or you put 1,400 Rand a month for 26 years, but you invested at 10%, which is very doable. It's not overrated there. You're going to end up after 26 years with 2 million in the bank, which means you can then draw 60,000 Rand a year without touching the capital. So you will be able to forever withdraw 60,000 Rand. So instead of just putting your money in a bank, we're needing to look at how we can start investing and making that money grow for you and make that money work for you. And compound interest is what they say is the seventh wonder of the world. And it's definitely worth looking at how you can start investing a little bit more so that you get your money working for you and growing. And just by the way, in 40 years, this is going to be 8 million rand. So if you are in your 20s or 30s now, you still got time ahead of you. Just saving that little bit amount of 1,400 rand a month is going to grow in 40 years to 8 million. And you could probably live off that without touching the capital. All right, so starting to invest, there are lots of ways of building up your assets and investing, and that is really what your goal is. So once you can save a bit of money, you've paid off your debt, and you then want to start looking at making that money grow for you, because just putting it into a savings account is not going to do it. And you want to start building your assets. So investing is really what you're needing to go and aim towards. Apart from your retirement annuity, I think a lot of people are not equipped enough or not putting aside enough to live the years that we do. When they designed a lot of retirement annuities, I think they thought we're going to live till 70 or 80, but realistically, people are living a lot longer now. And unfortunately, there's so many people that are retiring and not having enough money to survive. So make a decision now and say, all right, your first starting point is to get rid of your debt, and then start saving, and then look at where you can put your money working for you and investing a little bit more. And just as I mentioned before, workouts, the first thing is to work out if you're spending less than you're earning. And now with that spreadsheet and just a little bit of guidelines, you'll be able to work out where your money's going, figure out how you can save a bit more, and then start working towards a plan so that you can start investing a bit more. Just got a bit of time to show you a little bit of information of a couple of things of what will happen, just the cost of debt. Because I think until you see how much debt is costing you in real numbers, and what it means to invest, it's hard to actually get real and focused about it. Here's just a little spreadsheet to show you an example of contributing 1,000 Rand a year. So if you start putting away 1,000 Rand a year at the age of 21, oops, sorry, my mouse is super sensitive. I didn't mean to jump there. So if John puts 1,000 Rand away a year at the age of 21, and for 9 years invests 1,000 Rand a year, sorry, I can't touch my screen. So what he'll have at the end when he retires at 65, he would have invested 8,000, you can see at the bottom here, and he would have accumulated 427,000. If his brother, Paul, starts putting aside 1,000 Rand a month and investing it at 10% at the age of 29, and then invests for the rest of his years till he's 65, he would have contributed 37,000 Rand, and he will only have 363,000 Rand. So the sooner you start putting money aside and investing, the better. And if you say you can't afford to invest now, then just have a look at those numbers and say, well, it's actually, it's time to start now. And even if it's 100 Rand a year, that's less than 100 Rand a month, it's going to start making a difference. Sorry, I've got my pooch here again. No. And then just another spreadsheet here, which will show you, just to give you an idea, if you have debt, for example, let's say a credit card debt of 5,500 Rand, and you're being charged 18%, often you charged a lot more than that, up to 23%, but that's going to cost you, sorry, I can't touch my screen. It's going to cost you 1,000 Rand a year in debt. So in 5 years' time, you've paid 5,000 Rand. After 10 years, 10,000. After 40 years, 40,000. Instead of paying the bank that interest and you just take that 1,000 Rand and invest it, what's going to happen is now after year 5, you've got 6,000, and after year 40, you've got 767,000 Rand. So it's just the difference of that little bit. Instead of paying the bank interest on something like credit card debt, get rid of that debt and take that money that you would have been paying the bank and put it into an investment account where it's going to accumulate, grow with compound interest, and in 40 years' time, it's going to be a sizable amount. So it's just some numbers for those of you who are number oriented to show you the difference of actually being in debt and starting to actually make money work for you. All right, and then just why should we start investing? Because we don't want to end up like this. Remember how much fun we had that night we slept under the stars? We may get to spend our whole retirement doing that. And I know there's some campers here in our group, but if that's a reality for many of you, then it's really time to start taking action now. And it's those simple little steps that you can start with. And I just want to encourage you that it's possible for everybody to reach financial freedom if you just start taking those step by step. Don't be overwhelmed by your monthly living paycheck to paycheck. And if you have been sitting there just wondering how you're going to do it and how it's going to be, I hope that this has given you some tools and tips to show you that you can actually cut back on your spending. There are ways of saving. And then once you've paid off your debt and you're saving and you've got your finances balanced, then start putting more into investing. And even if you're investing 100 Rand a month, it's going to make a big difference in the long term. So obviously the longer you're investing for, the better it's going to be. There's some youngsters here. There's some of us who are retiring soon, or a little older, should I say. Maybe don't have as many years and need to look at investing a bit more. But really, I saw when I looked at my finances a few years ago that if we had not invested, I really would have been in a very different financial situation now. It's much easier now to invest on the stock market than it used to be. And so you don't need a lot of input, you don't need a lot of finances, you don't need to go buying huge assets like property and houses. You can start investing simply and easily now on the stock market. All right, so I hope that's given you some insights. We've got a couple of minutes for some questions. Does anyone have any questions? Just unmute yourself.
Nikki, I would just like to actually make a comment if you don't mind.
Sure.
I just wanted to thank you so much for your time tonight. And yeah, I just want to say that we all in, I'm sure, the same boat right now where things are really daunting. You know, you the other day you put a video on Facebook with a punnet of broccoli and cauliflower that cost 26 Rand. Well, I was in Spar today and I took a photograph of a punnet of grapes. They were 52 Rand just for a basic punnet of grapes. So we're all finding that costs are really, really just escalating. And as I had said to you, I feel like money is just pouring out of my account. And I think that because it's so daunting, we just don't know where to start. But I think you've given us amazing places to start. And just to start actually is what we all need to do. But just doing that basic spreadsheet, basically working out exactly where we stand and where our money stands is just going to help us so much more and give us so much more freedom and make us feel so much more in control. So thank you so much for your advice.
All right, thanks, Linda. And I hope I've tried to simplify it because it really doesn't have to be a big daunting thing to start with. If you just take those baby steps to start with, figure out, and that's the first thing, work out how you're going to spend less than you earn. Otherwise, you're just going down the rabbit hole and not getting out of it. So knowing where your money is going is a good starting point, and then being able to get on top of that. So as I mentioned, start keeping track of your spending, but you really need to make it doable. So if you're only doing it week by week, if a month is too overwhelming for you, then just check out your spending for a week and see how that goes, and then work it to 2 weeks and take 1 week at a time until you've got 1 month worked out. And you'll be able to see, sure, I didn't realize I'm actually stopping at the coffee shop 6 times a week because it's just a cup of coffee. you know, that's 25 Rand a cup of coffee, and it's 100 Rand a week, it's 400 Rand a month. You know, you take that and put it into investment, it's going to mean hundreds of thousands of rands in 20 or 30 years' time. So I don't want to say don't have that cup of coffee. If that's what makes your day meaningful, then by all means do, but maybe have one cup of coffee and look at where else you can cut your costs. And it's not forever. You know, this short-term sacrifice is really worth it. It's so worth just sacrificing a bit now for the long term, and getting real with your finances now, because it's not going to get easier. So let's just do something now that makes a positive impact to us. And also, it's not only us, it's our families that it impacts as well. All right, thanks, Linda. Any other questions?
I just want to say thanks very much. It was very helpful.
All right, that's great. Yes.
I'm very interested in this investing side. You know, or how you go about investing in a 10% sort of return. How simple is that?
Okay, and thank you for that, because what I'm going to be doing is sending some information out and letting you know a little bit more about investing. Do a one-day workshop where you can learn how to invest on the stock market. And it's something that I just discovered a few years ago when I realized how simple and easy it was to invest using Easy Equities. So I dug deep, I did courses, I read books, I did podcasts, and I've put together a one-day workshop where you can understand what the stock market is, how to invest in equities or stocks, and also which is short-term, and for the long-term gain of investing in ETFs or electronic traded funds. And a few years ago, I have to admit, I didn't even know what an ETF was. So if someone like me can understand basic stock market investing, it's so much easier now. It's never been easier to invest, even if it's 50 Rand a month. Youngsters are doing it. It's just a little bit of understanding that you need, and a little bit of know-how and a bit of a strategy. So if anybody's interested, I do a one-day workshop. For that, I've got one coming up on the 2nd of August. I think, let me just quickly put this up here, and I'm going to just finish off with this, and then I'll answer questions if anybody else has any questions that I will answer, because other people want to go. I'll send out the information on an email probably tomorrow. But if any of you are interested, I just wanted to say that the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people do the things that unsuccessful people don't want to do. And that's just encouraging to say, well, you know, everyone's moaning about finances, but if you want to make a difference, you're going to have to do things that other people don't want to do. All right, so those that have joined us, thank you so much. And if you're wanting to take more action, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And that's where my investing workshop will come in to help you. If you are interested, I've really kept the price very affordable. It's 1,995 Rand. If you book by tomorrow, I'm going to give you 500 Rand off. And also I give you a 30-day or a money back guarantee, because I know that if you apply what I teach you, you'll definitely get your money back that you've paid for the workshop and start a long-term strategy. So on the course, we will show you how to set up a portfolio. It's a safe, secure portfolio. We work within your risk profile and set up something that works for you. If you're wanting to join us on that, there's one on the 2nd of August. I will run another one later in the year. And that's going to be on Zoom, the one on 2nd of August. You can go to my website, So Much More, to find out some more information and what we cover on that. Otherwise, please feel free to just email me or drop me a line and I'll let you know a bit more about it. So I just wish you all the very best for your future of getting your finances in control and just starting step by step to make a difference in your life, because life is too short to stress and worry about money every day. And there is a future ahead of us that we really want to enjoy financially. So I'll take a few more questions, but otherwise, if anybody needs to leave, then thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. And remember that I've sent that spreadsheet in one of the later emails, the last 2 reminder emails. That spreadsheet is there. If you want that, if you can't find it, email me and I'll send it to you. And go and take some steps, cut back on your spending where you can for short term, keep track of your where you're spending your money, and let's get on top of these finances so we can enjoy a future.
Nikki, somebody's
Oh.
asking how long the investment course is on the 2nd.
Oh, thank you.
What's the time frame?
All right, thank you for that question. It's a one-day workshop. What I've done is take all the main things that I learned when I started trying to figure out this investing on the stock market. The more I read and the more I learned, try to figure it out, the more confused I got. So I've taken information from about 40 top investors, put it all together, simplified it, and taken the common thread to find a strategy that works. So it's a one-day workshop from 9 to about 4:30, where I give you an overview of what the stock market is, how to invest in the stock market, buy and sell equities, which companies to buy, when to buy them, when to sell, how to keep, obviously nobody knows the best time and the best companies to buy and when to buy, but to create a good strategy to know how to find the best companies to buy. But more importantly, you need to set up a strategy where you can invest long-term. So the second part of the course is investing in electronically traded funds, which will give you an average of 10 to 12%. And that's where you can very safely get that 10% interest accumulating over time. You don't need a lot of time and you don't need a lot of money to do that. So you can choose the right ETFs, and I'll give you some suggestions and literally tell you which ETFs you can buy so that you have a diversified portfolio. And in this very volatile time and this bull market, bear market, whatever it's happening, over your few decades of investing, it's going to return a good average of about 10%. So it's a much safer strategy for investing. I don't believe that there's any get-rich-quick scheme. So it's not about that. It's not about day trading, buying and selling, because that takes a lot of time and a lot more insight and analytics. But the course is really designed to help you get started on the stock market. We actually download Easy Equities and have set up a demo account, and you have some money to play around with. So on the workshop, we actually work and create a little portfolio. So you can start investing from day one in that. And just to give you an idea from someone that knew nothing about stock market investing, my portfolio over the past 3 years of stocks that I've bought and sold, my average return on investment is 72%. So it's just a good strategy. At the moment, it's lots of good buying opportunities. A lot of people are freaking out because the market's really dropped and everything's come down, but it's just how you see it. And if you're buying in the stock market and buying into companies that are good and secure, then you have a long-term strategy. So even my companies that are in the red now and I'm losing out on, I'm not stressing because I know that in time they will gain. They always do. The market will come back. So it's just also dealing a little bit with the emotional side of it, because you need to be able to handle emotionally the market. And as Warren Buffett says, you buy when everybody's panicking and you sell when everybody's the opposite way around, whatever his words are. But it's learning just to manage your emotions as well and have a strategy that works rather than buying emotionally. So the one-day workshop from 9 to 4:30 will set you up with the basics of being able to start investing safely. All right, any other questions there?
Nikki, I
Yes.
had a question. Can you hear me there?
Yes, I can hear that.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I'm sorry I missed the first part because I kind of jumped in budgeting, but I have got a financial background, so I should find my way around the
Good.
Excel spreadsheets.
Okay.
yeah, I'm just, yeah, it would have been nice to have been here from the start. Just had to juggle some accommodation changes, and that cost me, so that wasn't a money saving exercise. But anyway,
I'm going to see if we.
my question that I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned a 10,000 Rand emergency fund, and I just wondered, why 10,000 Rand? What makes you, is that just you just threw it out there? How, if you're sitting down with your best friend and you're worried about something that's going to happen and she's going to need money in an emergency fund, what are you going to base that on, decision on what that amount should be?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Heather, and it's really based on, and it's something that you've got to start to working towards. Because if you say have 50,000 Rand as emergency fund, it's just too big and too overwhelming. Some of this comes from Dave Ramsey, who is somebody that I learned a lot from in my early days, and he still ascertains to have $1,000 as an emergency fund, which is 15,000. So, 10 to 15,000 will cover most of your emergencies, your pop tire, your vet's bill, your child's accident or whatever. I had an emergency op when I broke my shoulder, and although I'm on a medical aid, I went to Life Clinic and I had to pay 9,100 Rand excess or co-payment before they would even let me in. So that 10, 15,000 will help with most of those emergencies. And it's really just a goal to start working towards that. If you are risk averse, then you'll feel safer with a bigger buffer. But I would put that money into a money market account where at least you're getting 3% interest instead of just sitting somewhere getting nothing. If you put it in Time Bank will give you 4% interest after a month, 5% after 2 months, and 6% after 3 months. It's probably the highest interest rate where you can have a savings account, and you can take it out, within 24 hours.
That's even better than your money market at the moment, though.
Yes, no, it is. I can't find any bank that gives you a better savings account. It's great for youngsters as well, because you can have savings goals. You can have a goal for a holiday and a goal for whatever. There is a limit. You can only save, I think it's 100,000 in your money market account and your Time Bank account, but you can put it into different goal saves. The one thing with that is that you have to withdraw your whole goal save at a time. So you can have a goal save for 5,000 for your holiday, and a goal save for 10,000 for your car or whatever. You don't want to put it all into one goal save, because then you have to take it all out at the same time.
Would they all give you 6% the whole lot together, if you save the maximum?
Well, when you after 3 months, you'll be getting 6%.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned risk averse. So I would be risk averse, because to me, and I understand what your 10,000 Rand is based on now. It's like an incident, a lifestyle, life cost incident. It's not, I lost my job, I got retrenched. It's because that to me is a money market 6-month fund, yes. Like a 6-month salary fund. And I'm a risk averse person. So to me, an emergency fund is, I want 6 months salary in the bank. Otherwise, I'm not happy.
No, absolutely. And it's kind of steps to working towards that financial freedom. So your first step is to have your 10,000, because you're not going to save 6 months of living expenses straight away. So you have a little mini goal of saving that 10,000, and you can hit that goal within 2 to 3 months. Whereas your 6 to 12 months of living expenses is going to probably take you a couple of years to save. And hopefully if you have an emergency and you use your emergency fund, then you want to top that emergency fund up. So you've got that buffer. Because what happens, also just building different habits and starting to create habits that are better financially in the long term. Otherwise, you have disaster or emergency after emergency, and you just go into deeper and deeper debt. So it's a strategy of keeping out of debt as well.
Yeah. You're not actually in the financial services industry per se. I mean, and from a professional background, because
No, Hila, I
and,
started off with that. So just to fill you in on that and answer your
yeah.
question. I have had about 25 years of experience in teaching personal financial skills, but I don't have any financial background. And I think I'm qualified because I've learned some tough life lessons, and I have put things in place that have now enabled me to be financially secure. So it's just a peace of mind that I really want to share with other people, because there's nothing that's more comforting than knowing that whatever life throws at you, whatever tragedies and disasters and things you do, one thing that you don't need to worry about is finances. You know, and even if the stock market crashes, I'm not worried because I've got a diversified portfolio. I've got investments that are bringing income in from different sources. And it's something that I've built up over 30 years. So I've learned from experience, from courses and reading. For the stock market investing course, when I realized how easy it was and how important it was to start investing in the stock market, what I did, I actually did a couple of courses. So I did one course that cost me $10,000, another course $2,500. And so I've just dived in deep to learn as much as I can. And I think sometimes the financial people don't understand how us non-financial people just don't get it. So it's
so
really
what I wanted to say there, and what I asked the question was your practical solutions, your practical advice, so to speak, and information that you're providing in education is really great for the layman. And being in the industry, it gets so overcomplicated that you lose touch. So collaboration of having somebody like you to just get down to the basics is great, because I mean, otherwise you lose people. Start talking about estate planning and tax and, you know, capital gains, and they're like, excuse me, they don't want to know about that. This is so critical, because without this, that's history. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So it's really practical. So I just want to, that's a compliment. Really,
thank you.
Yeah,
thanks, Heather. And it's amazing how many financial advisors are not financially secure. You know, they're working until they're 60, 70 and above because they know the financial institutions, but they haven't had a plan of putting their own, you know, just practically allowing or making sure that their own finances are in order. So, yeah, I think
chasing
it's just
chasing the next sale and not creating wealth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Knowing how, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Very practical, very applicable.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. I think most people have left, but
thanks very much, Sharon.
All right. You're welcome, Kelly. Thank you for joining us. I will send you some information and a follow-up email probably tomorrow, but otherwise you're welcome to ask any questions or be in touch if you get stuck with stuff. I'd love to help.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks very
Good
much,
night, everyone.
Nikki.
Thank you, Nikki.
Really, really helpful.
Cheers.
And
Bye.
definitely be getting in touch about the investing.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nikki. Bye.
Have a good night. Cheers.